In 2016, Darius Harris, 36, lived in Dayton, Ohio, with his daughter Zariah, 12. After his wife died in 2014 from post-operative complications, Harris became the only guardian. He worked 2 jobs as a mechanic. Weekdays 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at Westline Auto on Salem Avenue, and weeknights 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Riverside Quick Lube on East 3rd Street. Rent and medical debt from his wife's treatment shaped his schedule. Zariah attended Jefferson Middle School, 7th grade, and consistently earned high marks in science and mathematics. Teachers described her as focused and cooperative. She told counselors she intended to become a physician. The family rented an apartment in a 3-story building on the east side. On April 12, 2016, at approximately 3:40 p.m., Zariah played with classmates near Maple Avenue Market, 3 blocks from the Harris residence. While passing a rubber ball, she misjudged the throw. The ball struck the front window, which cracked and then shattered outward. The store manager, Raj Patel, 39, cashier and acting supervisor, exited and confronted the children. He demanded contact information for their parents and threatened to call the police. A passerby used his phone to report the damage. A patrol unit arrived at 3:56 p.m., driven by Officer Tommy Bell, 44, a 20-year veteran of the Dayton Police Department assigned to the 3rd District. Bell had completed multiple commendation courses and held seniority over most patrol officers on his shift. Bell separated the children and spoke to Patel. He told the manager the incident would be handled informally as minor property damage by a juvenile. He said the city maintained discretionary mechanisms for community restitution, and that a report was unnecessary if the owner agreed to a warning. Patel accepted the assurance after Bell wrote his name and badge number on a receipt slip. Bell then told Zariah he would give her a preventive talk, and that she would be returned home shortly. He did not attempt to contact her father or the school. He instructed the other children to go home. At 4:10 p.m., Bell drove Zariah to the 3rd District substation on Linden Avenue. He escorted her through a side entrance. The desk officer on duty, Michael Reeve, 31, later recalled seeing Bell with a juvenile but did not record a juvenile intake. Bell spoke to Zariah in an interview room with the door closed. No guardian was present and no school resource officer was called. At 5:05 p.m., Bell walked Zariah back to the patrol car, drove her within a block of the market, and dropped her off so she could walk home. She arrived at the apartment at approximately 5:25 p.m. before her father's shift ended. That evening, Harris returned from Westline Auto and prepared to leave for his night shift. Zariah reported that an officer had given her a warning and that the store would not press charges. She minimized details about the station visit, stating only that she was told not to repeat the behavior. Harris called Patel at the market around 6:10 p.m. Patel confirmed there would be no claim for damages and said the officer had handled it. Harris interpreted the outcome as an example of discretion toward a juvenile who made a mistake. He left for Riverside Quick Lube at 6:20 p.m., relieved that the incident appeared resolved. Over the next 2 weeks, school staff observed a change. Zariah, previously active in a science club, stopped attending meetings. Her homeroom teacher, Lila Davenport, 29, noted reduced participation and requested a parent conference for April 28, 2016. At home, Zariah asked her father to pick her up at dismissal rather than allow her to walk. On April 25, when a patrol car idled near the crosswalk, she paused and turned away until it left. When Harris asked why, she said she preferred to avoid any further contact with police. He attributed the reaction to embarrassment about the broken window. Between April 26th and May 10th, Officer Bell's patrol vehicle appeared repeatedly near Jefferson Middle School, between 2:45 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. The official assignment sheet for his shift listed traffic enforcement on East 3rd and routine presence near school zones. Several parents noticed the same car daily near the playground entrance. A crossing guard, Norma Kincaid, 62, part-time school aide, saw Bell speaking briefly with Zariah on April 29th at 3:12 p.m. from his driver's window. Zariah declined to discuss the interaction with her father that evening. Harris, still thinking of the prior incident, believed Bell was ensuring compliance with the informal warning. On May 5, 2016, the guidance office held the scheduled meeting. Harris, still at work, requested a phone call instead of an in-person conference. Davenport and the counselor, Edgar Pruitt, 41, reported Zaria's grade average remained high, but her classroom demeanor had shifted. They cited increased quietness, a missed lab team meeting, and hesitation around uniformed officers assigned to the campus. Harris agreed to arrange after-school pickups. He told the staff an officer had given Zaria a warning regarding the damaged window and expressed appreciation for consideration shown to his daughter. On May 12, 2016, at approximately 3:05 p.m., Bell again approached in his cruiser as Zaria stood near the curb. He did not exit the vehicle. He signaled her to the passenger side and spoke briefly. The conversation lasted about 1 minute. When Harris arrived at 3:15 p.m., Bell had left. Zaria entered the car quickly and remained silent during the ride home. That evening she stayed in her room, finished homework, and avoided questions about school. Harris still believed the officer's presence related to traffic safety and closure of the earlier incident. On May 21, 2016, one day after Officer Bell's unannounced visit to the Harris apartment, Zaria finally disclosed to her father what had occurred during her earlier encounters with the officer. The disclosure happened at approximately 9:15 p.m., after Harris finished his night shift and returned home. Zaria stated that during the preventive talks at the substation, and again during the home visit, Bell had engaged in inappropriate conduct. She told her father she had remained silent because Bell warned her not to speak to anyone, saying her father would not be believed. Harris listened, then asked clarifying questions. Zaria described multiple instances when Bell isolated her from others, emphasizing his authority and her supposed obligation to obey. Harris understood the details as allegations of abuse by a serving officer. The following morning, May 22, at 8:30 a.m., Harris arrived at the Dayton Police 3rd District Station to file a formal complaint. At the front desk, he gave his name, daughter's name, and the purpose of his visit. He was directed to Captain Richard Conway, 47, who had been Bell's colleague since their academy training in the mid-1990s. Harris recounted his daughter's disclosure. Conway listened without taking detailed notes, then stated the matter would be carefully reviewed. Harris asked for a copy of his complaint, or an incident number. Conway replied that the complaint would be entered into the internal system and an investigator assigned. Harris left the station believing that formal steps had begun. On May 25, Harris phoned the station for an update. The desk officer informed him no record existed under his name or his daughter's. He requested to speak with Captain Conway, who told him the system showed no active complaints, and suggested Harris might be mistaken about the filing procedure. The same week, Harris contacted Montgomery County Child Protective Services. On May 27, he met with caseworker Julia Martinez, 34. Martinez explained that the agency required a police report number to initiate an inquiry against a law enforcement officer. Without that number, the complaint could not move forward. Harris explained that the report had been lost. Martinez advised him to resubmit his complaint directly with Internal Affairs, but emphasized that their process still required an official police record. By early June, Harris recognized that his attempts formed a closed loop. The police required no outside verification to disregard his claim, and social services required documentation that police controlled. He documented his daughter's account in writing, dated June 2, 2016, and stored it at home. But he had no external acknowledgement. On June 5, at approximately 7 p.m., Bell arrived unannounced at the Harris residence. Harris opened the door, expecting a routine visit related to patrol. Instead, Bell carried a thin file folder. He placed it on the table and told Harris to read. Inside were photocopies of records from 2001, when Harris, then 21, had been arrested on suspicion of motor vehicle theft in Springfield, Ohio. The charges had been dismissed due to lack of evidence, but Bell reminded him that he, as a rookie officer at the time, had written a report that favored dismissal. Bell stated directly, "I gave you a chance back then. That's why you're free." But people don't forget. Who will they believe now? An ex-car thief, or me? From that week forward, the pattern of harassment escalated. On June 9th, Harris received a traffic citation for failing to signal a turn, issued by Bell during a stop less than 2 blocks from his workplace. On June 13th, Bell appeared outside Harris's apartment building and conducted what he described as a compliance check, asking to see proof of residence. On June 17th, Harris received notice of a code violation regarding improper disposal of vehicle parts near the garage where he worked nights. Co-workers confirmed Bell had inspected the area earlier that week. Each incident created stress for Harris and his daughter. Zaria expressed fear when patrol vehicles slowed near their building. On June 20th, Harris found several photographs on Zaria's cell phone. The images showed her in recognizable locations, including near the school and in the apartment hallway. The metadata indicated the photographs were taken with a device belonging to Bell, confirmed later by matching serial numbers in departmental equipment logs. Zaria admitted that Bell had taken her phone during a prior encounter and synced images to it, warning her not to delete them. From July 7th onward, Harris maintained a logbook. He documented Bell's routine: morning roll call at the 3rd District Station, midday patrols in the East Side school zone, afternoon traffic stops, and evening hours unaccounted for. By the 3rd week, Harris noted a recurring pattern. Every Thursday evening, between 9 p.m. and midnight, Bell parked his patrol car near a strip mall on Patterson Road and entered the Red Rose Bar. Staff later confirmed his presence as a regular patron. According to Harris's notes, Bell consistently drank alcohol, remained for 2 to 3 hours, and left in a personal vehicle while leaving his cruiser parked nearby. On July 28th, Harris purchased recording equipment from a local electronics retailer: 2 miniaturized cameras with motion sensors and 1 digital voice recorder disguised as a key fob. Receipts confirmed the purchase. He practiced operating the devices at home and concealed 1 camera in his vehicle, positioning it to capture Bell's departures from the bar. The recorder, Harris intended to carry on his person. His objective was to gather material that could not be erased or lost through official channels. Parallel to surveillance, Harris turned to digital research. Beginning in August, he searched community forums, parenting groups, and anonymous local boards for mentions of inappropriate conduct by law enforcement. Within weeks, he identified several vague posts describing encounters with a school officer who intimidated children and pressured families with past legal records. Harris established contact with 3 families through private messaging. Each confirmed experiences of intimidation, threats of minor charges, or unexplained home visits. However, when asked to provide statements, all declined, citing fear of retaliation. Harris documented their messages and stored screenshots on an encrypted drive. Recognizing that testimony required independent exposure, Harris contacted a freelance reporter, Allison Grant, 38, who operated as an independent investigative journalist in Dayton. In a meeting on August 17th, Harris presented the photographs recovered from Zaria's phone, his surveillance notes, and excerpts from online conversations. Grant listened but emphasized the need for corroboration. She suggested engaging legal counsel to protect against retaliation. Harris next consulted attorney Michael Webb, 42, who occasionally accepted pro bono cases involving civil rights disputes. Webb reviewed Harris's account and noted the absence of formal police documentation, but acknowledged the photographs and harassment pattern as significant. He advised Harris to continue documenting but warned against direct confrontation with Bell, explaining that without corroborating testimony, any legal filing would be dismissed. During this period, Harris's focus remained on evidence gathering rather than immediate retaliation. His daughter, however, expressed fear of losing him to arrest or worse. On August 20th, Zaria told him directly, "Don't do anything that makes them take you away too." Harris recorded the statement in his logbook as a reminder of the risks. On September 2nd, an unexpected development occurred. While shopping at a supermarket near the family's apartment, Harris encountered a woman who identified herself quietly as Sandra Bell, 41, wife of Officer Bell. She initiated the conversation discreetly in the produce aisle, asking Harris to step aside. She told him, "I know what he did to your daughter. He did the same thing to other children, and I stayed silent because I was afraid." She stated she had discovered photographs of minors on her husband's devices months earlier, but had been threatened with violence if she disclosed them. According to Harris, Sandra said, "He told me if I opened my mouth, he'd kill me and our kids." Sandra offered to testify, provided Harris could ensure her protection. She asked him not to involve the department directly, stating she no longer trusted any of her husband's colleagues. Harris regarded her disclosure as critical corroboration. Her position as spouse and witness to incriminating material could break the cycle of denial that blocked earlier attempts. He added her statement to his evidence folder and shared the information with attorney Webb and reporter Grant. By mid-September, Harris and Sandra established limited contact. She provided additional details, including locations where she had found photo storage and occasions when Bell returned home intoxicated after visiting the Red Rose. She also indicated that Bell kept secondary devices hidden in their garage. Harris began drafting a plan with her input. He scheduled to install cameras in areas where Bell regularly parked and arranged to transfer recordings to journalist Grant Weekly. Attorney Webb drafted a protective affidavit in case Sandra formally testified. On September 19th, however, Sandra failed to appear at a scheduled meeting with Harris at a public library. Harris waited for 2 hours, but she did not arrive. That evening, after returning home, he found a folded sheet of paper slid under his apartment door. The note read, "If you want to see your daughter alive, come to Riverside Park, bench number 7, tomorrow at 8 p.m., alone." Harris immediately searched the apartment. Zaria was missing. Her school bag remained by the door, indicating she had come home from class but had been taken afterward. Harris attempted to call Sandra's phone. No response came. He checked with neighbors, but none had seen Zaria leave voluntarily. The wording of the note suggested Bell had acted against both his own wife and Harris's daughter. On September 20th, 2016, at 7:55 p.m., Harris arrived at Riverside Park in Dayton, Ohio. He carried no weapons and brought only his phone. The note found under his door the previous evening instructed him to be at bench number 7 at 8 p.m., alone. Harris parked his vehicle in a public lot, walked toward the bench area, and observed Officer Bell sitting there. Witnesses later confirmed Harris entered the park alone. Bell appeared visibly intoxicated. On the ground beside him stood a stroller. As Harris approached, he saw the stroller contained no child, but instead a firearm wrapped in a blanket. Bell initiated conversation without prompting. According to Harris's later statement, Bell admitted he had killed his wife Sandra 3 days earlier, after discovering her intent to testify. Bell stated, "She thought she could betray me. I took care of it." He said Zaria was alive but confined in the trunk of his vehicle parked nearby. Bell then outlined his plan. He told Harris he intended to construct a narrative in which Harris would be portrayed as the aggressor. The firearm, once handled by Harris, would carry his prints. Bell explained he would simulate a struggle, then fatally shoot himself in a way that suggested Harris was responsible. He said, "Black criminal kills hero cop. That's how they'll write it. Perfect story." His words indicated premeditation not only of self-harm, but of framing Harris as a murderer and kidnapper. At approximately 8:07 p.m., Bell picked up the firearm and aimed it toward Harris. Harris lunged, initiating a physical struggle. The two men wrestled for control. During the struggle, the weapon discharged. The bullet struck Bell in the lower spine, causing immediate paralysis. He remained conscious, but immobilized. Harris retrieved the weapon, placed it aside, and moved toward Bell's vehicle. He located the trunk release and found Zaria inside, bound, but alive. He removed her restraints and guided her away from the car. At 8:14 p.m., Harris used his phone to dial emergency services. He reported that a police officer had been shot during a struggle and that his daughter had been abducted. Responding units arrived at 8:22 p.m. They found Bell lying on the ground, still conscious, with a spinal injury. They also found Zaria near Harris. Officers immediately secured Harris in handcuffs, citing suspicion of attempted murder of a police officer. Detectives on the scene noted inconsistencies. Bell claimed Harris had attacked him without provocation. Harris insisted Bell had confessed to killing Sandra and planned to frame him. At the time of the arrest, no physical evidence was available to verify either version. Bell was transported to Miami Valley Hospital, where doctors confirmed paralysis below the waist. Zaria was taken to the station for debriefing. The following day, September 21st, investigators searched Bell's residence. Inside a locked drawer in the master bedroom, they recovered Sandra Bell's phone. On the device, forensic specialists located multiple video files dated from March through September 2016. The recordings showed Bell verbally threatening Sandra, admitting to possession of compromising photographs of children, and describing methods of intimidating families with prior criminal records. One recording captured him describing a plan to set up that mechanic Harris by forcing fingerprints on a gun. Further search of the property led to the discovery of Sandra's body in a shallow grave near the garage foundation. The coroner determined the time of death to be approximately September 17th, 3 days before Harris's meeting at the park. Cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. These findings corroborated Harris's account of Bell's confession. Despite the confirmation of Bell's crimes, Harris remained charged with assault of a police officer. Prosecutors argued that he had engaged in a physical confrontation rather than withdrawing. Harris's defense pointed to the abduction of his daughter and the immediate threat posed. The jury accepted that Harris had acted under extreme duress, but emphasized that he had initiated physical contact instead of retreating. In May 2017, Bell was convicted of the murder of Sandra Bell, multiple counts of child exploitation, and abuse of authority under color of law. He received a life sentence without parole, to be served in a federal correctional facility due to the scope of his offenses. Harris was convicted of assault, resulting in serious bodily injury to a law enforcement officer. The court sentenced him to 5 years imprisonment. In July 2020, Harris was released after serving 3 years, receiving credit for good behavior. During his incarceration, custody of Zariah transferred to Harris's sister, Monica Harris, 40, a nursing aide in Cincinnati. Zariah visited her father regularly under supervised arrangements.